Hey guys, today we're going to be checking out the Hollywood Rack's Destination Platform Style 4 Bike Rack. I've already got it loaded up just to give you a good idea of what it looks like and how it's going to hold our bikes. It actually holds a wide variety of bikes, which is a really nice feature. Right here we've got a mountain bike, an older road bike, a women's bike, and a children's bike. Now this bike rack doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles that some other bike racks have, but it's going to get our bikes from A to B safely. Now what I mean by those bells and whistles is it doesn't tilt away so we can easily access that rear hatch of our vehicle, and the only thing that actually does lock on it is our anti-rattle bolt. But let's go ahead and take a closer look. It includes two red cam buckle straps. Now these of course aren't the primary anchor for our bikes. It's not going to keep our bikes in place, but it is going to take out some of that play and rattle when we're heading down the road. You can see I'm giving it a good shake there, and there's not a whole lot of movement in the bikes. They go between our frames, through the center mast, and like I said, it includes two. That way we've got enough to cover all four bikes. But let's go ahead and take our strap off. So this will be pretty much the same steps you'll have to take when you get to that trailhead. You want to remove your straps, maybe throw those in the back seat or in the rear hatch, and then you can take off your bikes. So our bikes are anchored by three ratchet straps. We've got one for our down tube here. You can see how the cradle is making contact with the inside of our down tube, and then the strap goes over and ratchets through, keeping it in place. The other two are keeping our wheels in place. So give it a good shake without that strap, just a little bit more play, but really not that much. Let's go ahead and take our bike off. So now it's always a good idea to undo your wheel straps first, so we'll just simply press in on that button to release some of that, and then we can guide the strap out. But the reason you want to undo the wheel straps first is because you only have one more to undo when you're trying to remove the bike versus undoing the down tubes first and then having two straps to deal with trying to hold the bike in place. So that's just something to keep in mind. And finally we can undo that strap, the frame, and take our bike off. So it doesn't take too long to remove our bikes, but once we've got one, we can just simply repeat the same step with the other three bikes. Now I did mention that it is anchored by three ratchet style straps. The center one here is going to be our main one. This is going to be our frame holder. You can see here how it's rubber padded, so we're not going to have to worry about any harm done to our frame. The strap also has a rubber padding here that we can center up over our frame, again, so we don't have any wear and tear. Now the main feature about this frame holder is that it is adjustable 360 degrees. That way it'll better work with those bikes with alternative frame styles, regardless of your suspension, the shape, or the size of the bike. Now they're also adjustable up and down that center mast. It doesn't lock in place. However, when securing all four of our bikes, we didn't find that this was an issue. Our bikes don't move, even though that this doesn't lock into place. So we're all set there. Now on down to our wheel cradles. They are not adjustable along the platform here. You're still going to be able to carry bikes up to a 48-inch wheelbase without any problems. You can see here how they made the wheel cradle extra long, so we're not going to have to worry about it slipping off to one side. All in all, we're not going to have any issues. Now it's designed to fit a 3-inch tire, so if you have a fat bike, this bike rack is not going to be a fit for you. Now when it comes to securing our wheels with our ratchet strap, it's the same style as what's on our center mast. It does feature that rubber pad so we don't have any wear and tear done to our wheels. Simply set it in place and pull it down, and it's nice and tight. Now we do have a second hole here that we can move that strap to, but as you saw with the wide variety of bikes that we were carrying, we didn't have to adjust that strap back at all. We even had a kid's bike on there, and we didn't find that we'd ever have to use that hole. You'd have to have a much smaller bike on there for you to ever want to move that strap back. Now back up top to our center mast. When it's not in use, or if you're just carrying two bikes, you have the option to fold it down to the left or right. You'll just want to loosen up the knob here. We can pull out the anchor here, turn it to the side, whichever is easiest, and then fold it to the left or right. You may have to adjust your frame holders up or down, depending on how you want it to fold and sit. Now let's touch on bike spacing. Some bike racks make it difficult, especially when loading and unloading your bikes. It always seems like bikes are making contact with one another during that process. But with this bike rack, we're actually about 7 inches from frame holder to frame holder. You do, however, still have to adjust your crank. That way it doesn't come in contact, but as far as anything else, we've got some good spacing here. We don't have to worry about them harming one another. Now I've gone ahead and taken off those last 2 bikes. This will give you a better idea of what the bike rack looks like without bikes loaded. I've also folded those center masts out of the way. Now would be the time to access that rear hatch. You can see here we can open it up. It's not going to make contact with the bike. Now we can remove those larger items. Now I'm not saying you won't be able to access the rear hatch with bikes loaded, but depending on your vehicle and the bikes you're carrying, you're going to have limited access. So just keep this in mind. Now back onto the bike rack, even though it takes a different approach on how it's designed, it's pretty solid compared to some other bike racks out there. You can see here, I'm putting a lot of weight on it. There's not really a whole lot of movement. I'm shaking the whole vehicle. It's also not going to flex when we're traveling at high speeds or just driving down the road. Now we'll give you some dimensions. This will give you an idea of how much it's going to add to your vehicle. From the center of that hitch pin hole to the outermost point of the rack is going to be about 43¼ inches. From the center of that hitch pin hole to the closest part of the rack is going to be about 8 inches. Now if you're concerned about that clearance at the back, it does fold up against your vehicle. That way we can stow it in our garage, or we can pull into a tight parking spot. And the way that's done is, we'll pull the clip out here, and then here on the other side, we're going to loosen up that large hand knob. We'll pull it all the way out, we'll let it hang, and then we'll fold the whole thing upward, realigning those holes. Now I would like to point out, we don't need to worry about holding on to it and coming in contact with our vehicle. It does have a stop, so we can rest it, that way we can reach down and replace that pin. Now this process takes a little bit longer compared to some other bike racks out there. Normally it's just a quick release pin, or maybe a pin that you pull out. This one you have to unthread, pull out, and then replace. But still, it's going to be effective. Our bike rack folds up, saving us clearance here at the very back. With it folded up, that outermost point is about 16½ inches from the center of that hitch pin hole. Now this is going to work with your 2" by 2" receiver. The anti-rattle bolt and lock are included. We mentioned earlier how this is the only thing that locks. This is okay though, because this is going to prevent anyone from removing our bike rack from our hitch. Now the nice thing about that anti-rattle bolt is this is what's going to prevent all that movement. You can see I'm shaking the entire vehicle here. Go ahead and take off our lock, and I'll loosen up that anti-rattle bolt just so we can show you how much play there is before it's tight. Now 2 keys are included. Go ahead and take it off. You can see how it clamps on our anti-rattle bolt here. And the tool is included to tighten and loosen that bolt up. Now if you'd like to speed it up, you can always change it out with a wrench or a socket. And of course, once you've got it loose, you can take it off with your hands. So with it loose, you can see how much movement there is, so that anti-rattle bolt is really nice to have. Now one other thing I'd like to mention is how lightweight this bike rack is. Compared to other 4 bike racks that are out there, this one is a lot lighter. It weighs about 45 pounds. Some of the others out there weigh anywhere from 70 to 90 pounds. so we can easily lift this up, store it on a shelf or in a corner in our garage without struggling with it. That's going to complete our look at the Hollywood Rack's destination platform style 4-bike rack.